Joseph Maguire is back with us. This time we're going to be talking about Joe Biden. Last week we talked about Donald Trump, and we talk about things that can be in favor or against him, and how should be the VP to complement his personality. Joseph, welcome back.
My pleasure, Susan. Delighted to be here. Thank you.
And for the ones who haven't heard our introduction for the first episode last week, Joseph, let's do a recap. You're coming from what kind of face reading?
My background is very much with the ancient Chinese tradition of Mian Sheng. And my particular focus at this point is on helping people build exceptional relationships, both personal and professional. And very often with my clients, there's a distinct overlap.
Well, and I always says, I'm in the other side of the of the lake. I do politicians, lobbyists, lawyers, hosting negotiations, sales rep, and realtors. But at the end, we always come out to the same conclusion because the important is to create the features in your face. So this shows that doesn't matter where you're coming from, you always end on the same place. So thank you again, Joseph, for being with us today. And let's see Joe Biden. I'm going to give you the first three because I always ended up taking the initiative. So what do you think are three things that can be maybe good and bad, or different things that you can see in Joe Biden's face?
Okay, well, let's go with the negatives to begin with. A negative trait for a VP with Joe Biden would be somebody who's quite verbose, somebody who talks too much, because Joe Biden has a tendency to do just that and often shoot himself in the foot. So it needs somebody who's more precise in their manner, more precise in their speech, and more detailed, and probably also at times a little bit more diplomatic. We can see here he has quite a wide mouth. He has relatively thin lips, which is kind of surprising, but he has quite a wide mouth, so it's very natural for him to speak a lot, and probably for his mind to be following what his mouth is doing on occasion. So somebody with a slightly smaller mouth and probably also with slightly fuller lips would be very helpful.
I see a lot of secret lines that I don't know any politician who doesn't have secret lines or maybe small lips, because between what they think and what they say is a huge difference. I think from all the politicians that we have as a candidate lately, Donald Trump was the only one who had a bigger lower lip, because obviously he's really spoken, like he doesn't have any filter. I think he lost all the filters. But from the other candidates, I always have this tendency to see small lips and always almost disappearing. But you're right, on the case of Joe Biden, it's like, where you lost your mouth? I see that it's big, so it's there, but where you lost your lips?
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, you can see the little indentations at the corner, which tell you that he's actually quite secretive as well. But that's, again, a very common trait with politicians.
Yeah, and here we have another picture. And again, even when he smiles, you cannot see his lips. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you also notice his canines are slightly larger, which tells you that he's also very competitive. So a VP who's not overly competitive, again, would be more compatible.
Only for the people who understand, the canine are the two front tooth. So when people want to fix their tooth or fix the gap between the tooth and says, don't do it, don't touch it, you're going to lose that competitiveness, or maybe that trait to make you the person you are. For example, Madonna, she have a gap between the tooth. Look where she's coming from and what she get to. So before you touch your face, talk to someone who knows what is the meaning about it, no?
Absolutely.
Something that we talked where we did the live webinar, and for the ones who are watching this, we're gonna add the link so you can go to see the webinar on demand. And again, we're gonna do, when the VP candidates are assigned, we're gonna do another live with Joseph early, so we don't keep him until 4 o'clock in the morning. One thing that we talk is about his eyebrows, that his eyebrows are short and they start thicker than they end. Let's see if I can find a better picture so people can just, here we go. Do you want to take it from here, or do you want me to go for here?
Yeah, if you want to go first, go for it.
Okay, he have a big distance between the both eyebrows, meaning that he is a person who, once he decide he gonna do something, he gonna do it. And when you accompany that with the stubborn chin and the protruding chin that Donald Trump have it too, sometimes I says people like, don't see the face on a whole, start looking features. And you're gonna find out that people, even though they don't look similar, they have the same specific features who put them when there are. So between the distance between the eyebrows and the stubborn chin, it's a person who want to get something on their head. Is going to be really difficult to make it navigate differently. So it's going to need, again, as you mentioned, somebody who is really diplomatic and help him to think things through. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of other observations about the eyebrows. That gap, which is very considerable between his eyebrows, tells you that he can have difficulty making his mind up and actually being decisive. So he is known for flip-flopping on positions and points of view. So he can be actually quite indecisive. And also then the eyebrows, as you say, are quite short, which means he doesn't necessarily stick with what he's thinking or stick with what he's originally thought. So he can lose interest halfway through a project or an undertaking. So he will need somebody who's very, very consistent to complement him and balance his weakness. So
I
somebody
will.
with longer, fuller eyebrows will be very helpful.
That's what I was about to say. I will look for somebody who have long eyebrows. They start with the eye start and finish a little longer than when the eye finish. And they start with the same amount of hair and finish with the same amount of hair,
Mhm.
because that is going to be a person who is going to be willing to take any project or any initiative that he does from
Yeah.
the beginning at the end, because he looked like he's good, really good on the ideas committed, but not on the ending, uh, on the ending end of the things.
Yes, he could leave. He could well leave things unfinished, which is certainly not going to be helpful.
Another thing, I think he's an agnostic by nature. He doesn't believe in things only because you put it in front of him, and that accompany again for the distance between the eyebrows and the chin can make him really stubborn, like, oh, this is not going to work, it's not going to happen. And that has to do with the lines on top of the eyes. So these lines, there are a
Yep.
couple of lines, at least I call it the diagnostic lines. Is a person who's not going to be easily manipulated with information. You need to prove them that you're right, not that you have only the certifications. So maybe it's going to be difficult for him to see things from another perspective. So a good VP would be someone who help him to navigate different options for the same problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they he needs to choose somebody who's not going to be too stubborn. Again, who's somebody who's adaptable and willing to be adaptable. Again, charm is going to be very important for whoever he chooses as his running mate.
Well, a female name he's been going around, and most people says that he will need to have a female to complement his character as the better BP. But let me tell you, the female character has nothing to do. You need to read the features on the face, because I know some women and some females that are, oh my God, they're worse bulldogs than any other man that I met. So you need to be careful when you say female. Not always is going to be easy to deal with.
I'll maintain a diplomatic silence on that one, Susan.
Well, I'm a female, so the last time I checked, so I think I can say that. Another thing is, and you tell me from the Oriental standpoint of face reading, when you have crooked lower tooth, it's a person who have high standards on perfection and goals, and sometimes is really impatient with the mistakes and the time other people can take to get the goals, because they're really hard to themselves. Do you have any reading on those?
Yeah, and you can see also to accompany that, you can see some. It's not maybe so evident in this photo, but you can certainly see it in other photos. He's got some distinct vertical lines at the beginning of the forehead as well, just between the eyebrows. So which would also indicate impatience and certain perfectionist tendencies. Yeah, much more evident in this one here. So he would certainly have those perfectionist tendencies, which would mean he would be self-critical, but also likely to be critical of others. So on a physiological level, maintaining stable blood sugar levels is going to be very important in that regard. But again, it indicates the VP is going to be needs to be somebody who's very calm by nature, again, to complement his personality traits.
We talk about chins, but we haven't talked about the shape of the chin. And there are two things that get my attention with Biden, that it even kind of, would it be opposite on how stubborn he is? The cliff on the chin usually is a person who's playful and is a good team player. How you read it from the Oriental standpoint? Because for me, it's a person that he can be a team player, but on the other hand, he have a square chin, big chin. I don't want to hear a feedback for this man. He's not going to filter it. Maybe he doesn't do it in public like Donald Trump does it, but if he need to give you a feedback, it's going to be painful.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look, his nose is relatively slender, which tells you he's not necessarily a natural team player. So even within a team, he's going to want to do things his own way. And if people cross him, he's likely to make sure they know about it.
What do you think the cliff on the chin could, because you can see from this picture, is really well marked. How you will read in contact with the rest of the face, having like what we call a team player or a sport guy on the chin?
Yeah, that little cleft. I'm wondering, is it a scar? Because it looks like a scar. But regardless of that, from my perspective, when I see a cleft like that, it indicates somebody who loves attention. They're naturally resilient, and he's obviously had to be in his life because he has experienced a number of tragedies, but he does love attention. So again, his ego will be very sizable, and the VP cannot afford to be somebody who always wants to be in the spotlight.
So to resume, we need to talk about with somebody who have a more people approach, who it's a person that they can take charge of things that he cannot follow through, and is more candid talking to others and more diplomatic. What is your take?
Absolutely, I'd agree with that fully. And you notice here, his cheeks are not particularly full. So despite his reputation, his cheeks aren't telling us that he's especially empathetic. So the VP will need to have those qualities.
So you saying he is empathetic?
No, I'm saying his cheeks say that he's not especially empathetic. His reputation is for being so, but his cheeks aren't verifying that.
And what about I don't see a person with a lot of level of energy. So I would say that he may be gonna need someone who have more, he can work in short periods of energy and stop. Maybe somebody who can not only follow through regarding the eyebrows, they have maybe a little fuller face and wider face and cheeks, that they have more energy. So when he felt that he need to stop it, he cannot follow through. The other person can pick it up and keep going with the same project or ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. You notice there's no great width or height to his cheekbones. His face just kind of comes down from that whole temple area. It's almost like a straight line down, whereas you would expect somebody in such a powerful or aspiring to such a powerful leadership position would have much wider cheekbones, which are associated with power and vitality and energy and drive.
One thing that I can say is that even though it can be seen as a negative, I'm trying to find a picture who can show it better. His mouth is turned down the same way the eyes are turned down, and even though it's a showing of negative life and things who happen in life, the good news with that is a person who's always have solution for every problem, because they never expect the things go well. So even before you have a problem, he's gonna have some options to fix it, or at least address it.
Yeah, I don't know who it was who described pessimists as pragmatic optimists. That may be a good way of describing him.
Yeah, I agree completely. Joseph, anything else you want to add about Joe Biden reading that we have done?
Yeah, there's one other thing. You notice, particularly in this photo, his lower eyelids are quite straight across, and his chin, as you mentioned earlier, is quite flat, which tells you that he really values loyalty. So any VP is going to really have to demonstrate loyalty to him, not just to the position of president, but to Joe Biden as a person.
He looked for a partner in crime. I have the feeling that Trump is looking for somebody who go behind his shadow. He's looking more for a partner in crime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Joseph, as always, it's a pleasure to share the stage with you. Let's see when the candidates announce the VP, and let's do some damage live again.
Thank you so much, Susan. Always a wonderful pleasure.